between. Today I'm coming to you with the journal time. Okay, so about 3 weeks ago, I gave you two different videos in which I shared some tips to deal with the school that you really hate working at in South Korea. Now, my experience stems from my 3 years of being overseas in that country. Of course, if you live there, you might have a different situation. You might not feel that those tips apply to you. You might not feel like you would find yourself in that type of situation. That's okay because everyone's different, right? So now, during those 3 years, my first 2 years, I worked in public school. My last year, I was in a private institution. But the first 2 years, I worked at two different schools. One I called the good school, and one I called the bad school. And the bad school was the bad school because they was always doing something messed up. And this journal time is inspired by something that the bad school did to me. Now, as I mentioned in that video 3 weeks ago, you're sometimes forgotten. And this is especially the case when you're the only foreigner working in that school or institution. And at the time, I didn't know all of the tips and tricks that I know now to help myself stay relevant back then. Now, with all of that in mind, one day at the bad school, everything is going good. I teach my classes. This particular day, I'm done right before lunchtime. So after lunchtime, I would have from that point to when it's time to go home at 5 to myself. So I would go back upstairs after eating lunch with everyone. I explained in previous videos that everyone eats lunch together. So you're right across from the principal, next to the students. You're all together at a table, just eating. So I had come from that. I come back upstairs and I go to my English room to spend the rest of my day lesson planning, doing whatever it is that I could do to kill time until it's time to leave. Now, the English room in this particular school was like in the cut in a lone hallway. So I was like really, really by myself there. And if someone really needed to get to me, that they would actually need to come out of their way to come get my attention. So every school has a main office, of course, and in that main office is where the vice principal sits. And in that area, you also have like a little table in the corner that has tea, a kettle to make hot water and instant coffee. So normally around 3:30, 4-ish, just once a day, I would make a habit and I would go downstairs to go get me some coffee. And this particular day, around 3:34, I went down to get some coffee. So I'm walking in the hallways and something seems just a little bit off. Like I don't see anybody in the hallways. Normally around this time the students are going, but I would normally see maybe one of the teachers leaving or going to the bathroom, or I would hear them in their classrooms doing something, but I don't hear anything, but I don't pay too much attention. I continue, I make my way down to the office and I get into the office and she's not sitting down at her seat. But that's not unusual because, maybe she went to the bathroom. Maybe she went somewhere with the principal. Maybe she's talking to him, having a meeting with somebody. I don't really pay that too much attention. Again, I go over, I make myself some coffee, but then I start thinking like, there's not even any other teachers here. And normally there would be somebody at the coffee machine, somebody else making some coffee, or somebody sitting down at one of the spare computers, but there's no one there. But I keep making my coffee and I'm like, this is weird. So I leave the office in which the vice principal still had not returned to. And instead of going the way that I came, I went down another hallway, right? It's opposite and it would take me a long time to get back to where I was going. But I just wanted to walk around to see who else was in the area. So I'm walking down the hallway and, I don't see anybody in that classroom. And I'm like, okay, continue walking. And when I get to the next classroom, that one's empty too, like gone empty, gone for the day empty. And then that's when I start to connect the dots. Like all these classrooms looking gone empty, and then the vice principal not being there, nobody upstairs. They all left. Like for the day. They left me there. Like we legit had lunch together, everyone at the table, eating, talking about the food, like rubbing elbows, and no one thought to say, hey, we're closing the school, we're leaving, make sure you leave, you could get to go home early. No one said anything. And if you think this is bad, it gets worse. Back up to my English room. I'm boiling. I'm really upset. Because I knew that they were shady, but I didn't think they would lock me inside of school. So I go upstairs, I pack my things, and I leave, and I get to the front door, and it's locked. Locked. Yeah. So not only did they leave me in the school, but they locked me inside. We have a few side doors, so I go to another one thinking, all right, maybe they just locked the main door. No, that one's locked too. Like it was locked. Like they locked me inside, like for real, for real. And I started thinking, because we're on the first floor. So I'm like, I can just leave through the window. Those are always open. I'm not gonna break anything. So I could just leave that way and don't have to worry about like trying to literally break my way through a door. And I started to make my way to a classroom to do that when I realized one of the other side doors that we have during the school, because again, they have different doors. I went over to that door and it's like a sliding door. So I'm like, okay, easy, no problem. They definitely left this one open. They didn't. It was locked as well, but it was a bit rickety. It was like an old door. So it was rickety. So with some weight, I was able to bust it open and get out. And that's how I got out my school from being locked inside. Now, the next day, did I say anything to them? No, I didn't say anything about getting locked inside. I also didn't say anything about breaking the door. And they didn't mention anything about a broken door. So I didn't mention anything about it either. I'm the type of person where if you do something wrong to me, or if you're just extremely absent-minded like that, I'm not going to tell you about yourself. You're going to figure that out by yourself. I'm just going to go ghost and I'm just going to slowly pull away. And that's literally what I did. I remember a few videos back when I was talking about the work culture in Korea, especially in public schools. If you don't kind of go along with the pack and and be like a yes person to them, you kind of get outcasted, right? And so this was their way of outcasting me. This is their way of, I guess letting me know, oh, you're not a part of us. You're not, down with the group. This is what happens when you're not down. And that was an L I was willing to take because of things that they had done before that kind of let me know that I didn't want to be spending my time with them. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think. Would you have broke down the door? Would you have climbed out the window so you wouldn't have to break down the door? Would you have said something the next day at work like I didn't? What would you have done? Okay, JPT Nation, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this journal time. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure you leave your comments down below so I can read how you would have handled the situation differently. Thank you and see you next time.